Despite Resistance 2's excellent graphics and high-quality presentation, the single and multiplayer modes get quite repetitive easily. In the single-player campaign, you'll fight 1 to 2 monsters primarily throughout the entire game, with a few bosses and other monsters interspersed, but very rarely. The multiplayer game can be fun, but it gets old easily as well. In a single-player game, it's not uncommon to see huge capital ships and notable icons like the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco that add to the presentation. This is what almost all of the campaign is. Stick your head out from a wall, shoot the same basic hybrid chimeras over and over again, with the variety of other monsters seen interspersed but very rarely. A large portion of the game also will be fighting the chimera here that can run up fast in large groups and try and hit you with their melee attacks. The game seems to want to impress you by having you fight 20 to 30 characters on screen rather than having interesting enemies. Some of the enemies here have shields and they're larger, but you don't see them as often. And so the variety you don't really see as much, and they're all just basic same kind of enemies. Shoot them as much as you can without any notable weaknesses. The most unique monster here is the chameleon. He's invisible until he jumps to lunge out at you at the last second, and then he's vulnerable to a couple of gunshots that'll knock him down. But you hardly ever see him in the entire game. These huge robots you'll see once, maybe twice in the campaign. They're cool, but again, there's no real notable weakness. You just shoot them with rockets and blow them up. Move on. Some of the variety that you'll see, again, is very rare. These turrets here at the left, I had to sneak around the behind, and you'll shut it down from its control panel manually. Slightly different gameplay, but nothing that you'll see often. Here I'm jumping between cars, because if I fall in, there are these fish that you'll see there in the distance that will instantly kill you if you fall in the water. Basic platforming, but you don't see it very often. The auger returns and also has a secondary shield here that's providing cover for me. The auger is still the coolest weapon in my opinion because you can see enemies through the walls here at the yellow highlight and do more damage actually by shooting through the walls. But most of the weapons are just your generic shotguns, and here you have the sniper rifle. The only difference with the sniper rifle here is that if you have the far eye, it can shoot 5 bullets at a time. And this sequence here is a little different because you're in a helicopter doing damage to enemies before you land on the ground. But that's the only time you'll ever be in something like that. You're never in a vehicle otherwise. The splicer's pretty cool. In close quarters, it shoots out blades and does a lot of damage to these melee creatures. But you only see it 2 or 3 times in the entire game. It's essentially just a replacement for the shotgun. The boss fights can be fun, but a lot of them are like this. Just shoot this guy as much as you can. He'll try and knock you off of a platform, but it's nothing really novel. Just shoot him as many times as possible. No real pattern or weaknesses to him. This huge Leviathan, he'll try and pick you up and eat you, so just shoot him in his mouth. He's probably one of the 2 bosses that are actually unique and interesting, that have different gameplay mechanics. You use the environment against him, and there's another creature that you actually can't even shoot. You have to figure out how to beat him. But those are very rare. Multiplayer modes, none of them are really fun because you just have death matches or capture the flag, except for this one with Skirmish. You're in squads of 5 members each, going to various objectives that are random, and eventually culminating in a 60-player fracas at the end. In the co-op, you have here the medics healing up the soldier who has a shield he erects with a Gatling gun, and I'm the special ops, so I'm the only guy that can drop the ammo down. They're all interdependent, but it all unfortunately devolves into just fighting tons of the same enemies on screen at the same time. Overall, Resistance 2 is a high-quality presentation, but a lot of the gameplay gets very repetitive very quickly. The campaign, you're fighting the same 2 or 3 monsters, 20 to 30 on the screen at the same time, but it just gets very old very quickly. Even the larger, more different monsters and bosses don't have any notable weaknesses, so you just fight them all basically the same. And then the co-op mode and multiplayer mode, those can be more fun with their varying objectives, but they also tend to drag down into repetitive objectives that you'll see over and over again.